Hi everyone. It was a bright, sunny afternoon in Florida when I heard the knock at my door. The warmth of the day had lulled me into a calm, but that moment shattered any sense of peace. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door and for a brief second, I caught a glimpse of her, a flash of familiar but hateful eyes. Before I could register what was happening, her thug of a boyfriend barged past her and into the doorway with all the force of a storm. There was no time to react. His fist came at me like a hammer, slamming into my face with a sickening crack. I felt the bone of my nose snap under the pressure, blood immediately pouring down, blurring my vision before I could even register the pain. Another hit came, this time to my ribs. The force was enough to knock the air from my lungs. I staggered back, gasping, but he was relentless. His fist came again, smashing into my side. There was a sickening crunch as 3 ribs shattered under his brutal attack. I barely had time to comprehend the agony before I felt a sharp, searing pain in my abdomen. He hit me so hard I could feel something tear deep inside. My spleen ruptured, blood was pouring out of me now, and I could barely keep my footing as my legs buckled under me. The room spun and the pain was overwhelming, but he wasn't done. He took pleasure in watching me crumble, each strike more savage than the last. I could hear him laughing, his breath ragged as I struggled to stay conscious. The next thing I knew, the world around me was going dark. But not before I felt another strike. This time, a brutal kick to my stomach. The impact sent a surge of pain through me, and as I went down, I thought for a moment that I might not make it out of this. All of this, my body breaking under the force of his blows, happened in the span of moments, leaving me barely able to keep my eyes open as I collapsed to the ground. He gave me a concussion and inflicted numerous other injuries. There was no time to react. He wanted me to feel every blow. The strikes paused and I could sense he was relishing my pain. It felt like every part of my body was damaged. If I hadn't been in good shape, I might not have survived. The last thing I remember was her kicking me and spitting on my bloodied body. I was barely conscious. I heard her growl. "You son of a bitch. Did you think you could just walk away from me? Who the hell do you think you are? I told you I'd make you pay. If you go to the cops, one will kill you. Maybe we'll come back tomorrow to finish the job. Think about that." Then I passed out. I had spent the last 20 years married to a monster. My name is George Brown. When I first opened my eyes, everything was a blur. I felt disoriented, the world spinning around me. There was an incessant beeping sound that grated on my nerves and I thought, hospital? How did I get here? But the details wouldn't come. I felt a surge of anger and pain. Flashes of my ex-wife's sneering face overwhelming my thoughts. Tubes were jammed down my throat and my nose and attached to my arm. I couldn't move. I wanted to speak, but I was so tired, so unbearably tired, and then everything went black again. 2 days later, I heard a familiar voice. My son Eric shouting, "He's awake. Call the doctor." "Dad, can you hear me? You're going to make it. I knew you were too tough to die." I told them what happened to you. They said, "Eric is a second-year student at State College studying engineering. He's a good kid, smart, driven, and he loves me. He can't understand why I couldn't stay with his mother. He never saw the woman she really is, the vengeful person I had to endure. I never tried to explain it to him. Maybe I didn't have to. Despite everything, she was a good mother, and that's all Eric needs to see. He's the one thing in the world she truly cares about." I tried to respond. But my throat was raw, dry, and aching. All I could manage was a weak grunt. Eric carefully gave me a sip of water, which eased the dryness just enough for me to speak. I whispered his name, Eric, and motioned for him to come closer. When he leaned in, I could barely make the words come out. "Your mother did this to me. Your mother." My voice faltered and I couldn't say more. It was too much. "You and Mom have been divorced for over a year, Dad. You've got to be wrong about this. Sure, Mom can be mean sometimes. But I can't believe she'd go this far. She doesn't hate you that much for leaving her. She says she's moved on. Mom told me she has a new man now. I met him once. Didn't like the look of him. Anyway, get some rest, Dad. We'll talk later. I'll be back to see you tomorrow. Just relax. You've been through a lot. The police said they'll come back for your statement once you're feeling better." Eric thought I was delirious, caught up in some confusion from the trauma, but I remembered everything. I wasn't wrong. I knew exactly what had happened. I knew about Juan. Not long after I reached the hospital, I died. If Eric hadn't stopped by my apartment when he did, I wouldn't have made it. I was lucky they left my door open. I could hear the nurses whispering as they worked to stabilize me. One of them asked, "What happened? Did he get hit by a truck?" "No," the surgeon replied. "I understand he was beaten into this condition. We got him here just in time to try to stop the bleeding. Then, the beeping on the machine flatlined and a steady, ominous tone filled the room. I watched from above as the doctors worked frantically trying to bring me back. I hovered in a strange, detached place, gazing down at my lifeless body on the table, feeling the desperation in the air. "Hold that clamp, nurse. That's it. We've got it." The bleeding stopped clear. I heard the doctor say with excitement. "Again clear. That's it. He's back." They worked on me until my heart started beating again. When I finally opened my eyes, I was back in my bed, but I felt like absolute hell. A week after the surgery, I was finally ready to tell Eric the whole truth. "Listen to what I'm about to tell you, Eric. I know you're going to have questions, but let me finish first," I said as Eric sat by my bed, looking at me with a mixture of concern and confusion. "Okay, Dad. I'm ready to listen. You look different. Your face, your eyes don't look the same. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But it feels like you're looking right through me," he said, his instinct sharp, even if he couldn't fully put it into words. He was right. My recent experiences had changed me. Dying does that to a man. You're old enough to understand now. The last 10 years of my marriage were really tough on me. Your mom stopped being affectionate for reasons she wouldn't share with me. Our intimacy disappeared. She always took care of you in the house, but to her, I was just a convenient source of income and status. Nothing more. Nothing I did made any difference to her. I tried everything. She refused marriage counseling, and my attempts at affection or romance were either rejected or accepted without any real feeling. I lived without any words of love. No hugs, no cuddling, no kisses. She would occasionally give in to sex just to placate me. But for years I wasn't allowed to make love to her. It was only on her terms when she didn't have to participate. Sometimes she'd let me do it if I kissed her, but all day. I know all this is difficult for you to hear, but I stayed with her because I needed to be there for you. She cooked your meals, washed your clothes, but when you needed someone to hold you, to give you affection, I was there. She never saw that as important. She never understood. That emotional support mattered. I couldn't trust her emotionally, and now, looking back, I realize I should never have trusted her at all. If I'd known she was cheating on me, I would have kicked her to the curb. I didn't want to be an absentee father. I didn't want to see the truth of what was really happening. You needed me, and I stayed because of that. But when you went off to college, I realized that was the moment I couldn't ignore it anymore. I told her it was over. "Diana, I wish I was wrong, but you don't love me. If you ever did, it's clear you haven't for a long time. I finally understand why you didn't need sex from me. I can't ignore the evidence anymore. I see it now. My love for you has been dying for years. There are women out there who could appreciate a man like me. I know that now. But the final straw was when I saw you. I think you've cheated on me over and over. I've put up with your lies and excuses long enough. I refuse to see you for who you really are, but my denial is over. I'm done with you. We're through. We'll sell the house, split the equity and investments right down the middle. I'm not taking care of you anymore. That should leave you in good shape for quite some time." "What are you talking about, George? I didn't do anything wrong," she cooed, trying to calm me down. "I know I've neglected you, but I'll do better. Think about Eric. What will a divorce do to him? Come over here and let me make it up to you. It was only with one once." I was discreet. "It didn't mean anything, honey." She tried to look seductive and innocent at the same time, but failed miserably. "It won't work this time, Diana. Eric's a man now. You can't use him as a weapon anymore, and frankly, I don't care about your excuses. I saw you. I saw you having sex on the dance floor with that gorilla. I saw you go into his apartment and then leave 3 hours later, looking like you'd just been screwed. I've realized now that you've been cheating on me for years, maybe from the very beginning. But it doesn't matter anymore. I'm done. You're a fraud. You're a self-centered, manipulative bitch. You've been pretending to be my wife for far too long. That's not true. I love you. Shut up." "Yes, it is, and you know it. All you care about is your public image. You took pride in how much you could take and how little you ever gave. The only control you had over me was what I let you have. It took real strength to honor my vows while being treated like crap. I tried to do the right thing. But did you ever stop to think about the consequences of your neglect and abuse?" She was silent, unable to respond. She knew the game was over. I could see the wheels turning in her mind as she scrambled for a new tactic. "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I haven't been a good wife. For betraying your trust. Please forgive me. Give me another chance. I love you. Please don't end our marriage. It was just sex with Juan. It was only one time. You have to believe me. I love only you. I can't live without you. I need you. You're my rock," she whimpered, tears streaming down her face. There was a time when I would have been moved by this, when I might have believed her. She was almost convincing, but not anymore. Here's a copy of the private investigator's report. I didn't even need to look at it, I said, tossing her a manila envelope. If your lips are moving, you're lying. You've been sleeping with this guy for months, and I suspect there were others before him. You're just trying to protect your comfortable little life. I had him checked out. He's some kind of muscle for some very bad people. I think you deserve each other. He's a vicious animal and you're a lying 304. This conversation is over. Screw whoever you want. I'm already packed. My lawyer's card is on the dresser. I don't have any more time to waste on you. I'll be fair, but don't fight the divorce. I wouldn't want to send a copy of that envelope to your family and all your high society friends and family. Her face hardened. You a hole. You took your time to grow a set of balls, didn't you? You can't threaten me. If you walk out on me, I'll make you pay. You know I'll find a way. Now forget this madness and calm down and have sex with me. I couldn't believe my ears. She still had no idea who I really was. You still don't get it? Have sex with you. Bitch. It's over. I never want to touch you again. And I hope I never lay eyes on you again. You are out of your mind and out of my life, I said, walking out, leaving her forever. When I opened my door over a year later, one rushed in and attacked me. He worked me over pretty good. He took his time, savoring every strike to maximize the pain. Your mother watched the whole time. She wanted to torture me. He wanted to slowly kill me. Have you talked to the police? Did you tell them what happened? Eric asked, concerning his voice. No, and you won't either, I replied, my voice flat, emotionless. Why not, Dad? He almost killed you. They shouldn't be allowed to get away with this. She's my mother, but I'm ashamed of her. How did she think she was going to get away with hurting you like this? One day you can ask her. Right now. I'd prefer it if you said nothing about me. I want her to think about what I'll do next. She's no doubt looking for Juan to protect her. You should know they did kill me. I died on the operating table. The doctors brought me back. I'll deal with both of them in my own way, in my own time. Damn, I didn't know that. Oh my God, I don't know what I would do without you. I don't know what to say. You're not going to hurt her, are you, Dad? He couldn't stop caring about his mother. I understood. No physical harm will come to your mother by my hand. I promise you that. I won't rest until justice is done. They took something from me and I want it back. What's that, Dad? My pride, son. My pride. I won't sleep until I make this right. The vacant look in my eyes scared him. I guess you have to do what you have to do, Eric said, his voice full of concern. I never knew she was capable of something like this. One looks dangerous and he's about 240 pounds, Dad. You're too much of a nice guy to get tangled up with him. Let the police handle it. What are you going to do? Don't worry about me, son, I replied, trying to reassure him. It's better if you don't know what I'm going to do. The nice guy you're describing died on that operating table. Juan and your mother should be the ones who are afraid now. Once I was strong enough, I began gathering the tools I'd need to deal with my ex-wife and Juan. Among the items were a collapsible baton and a stun gun. The clerk explained how it worked to me. Generally, a quarter-second shock will startle the attacker, causing short-term pain and muscle contractions. 1 or 2 seconds will cause intense pain and contractions and might drop him. Over 3 seconds, the attacker will be in serious trouble. He'll collapse and remain unconscious for several minutes. I decided to handle Juan first. I waited for him to leave his condo, and as he turned toward his car, I gave him a 4-second jolt from the stun gun. When he came to, he was cuffed and bound in the back of my car. I pressed a chloroform-soaked handkerchief over his face, and he drifted off again. By the time he woke up, he was standing on the trunk of his car, his hands tied above him and secured to a tree branch. Where am I? Why am I here? Who are you? He strained to make out my figure in the dim light as I stepped closer. Do you recognize me now, Juan? I said, my face becoming clear to him. I've been planning this moment for a long time. Let me go now. And I might let you live. Consider this a warning. You're warning me, Juan. I'm shaking in fear. How many people have you hurt this week, this month, this year? You're a terrible person and you nearly killed me. If your ex-wife hadn't stopped me, I would have finished the job. You came closer than you thought, Juan. I'm back and I'm here to settle the score. Was she worth your life, Juan? Was she? Because that's the price you'll pay for her. I clicked open the baton. I'm still carrying the pain from what you did to me, Juan. It's only fair I return that gift of pain. I could see the fear in his eyes. I saw you flinch, Juan. Let's see how tough you really are. You don't have the guts to what, Juan? You think I don't have the guts to do this? I struck his right kneecap with the baton. He would have collapsed, but the rope held him upright. He groaned, struggling to balance on his left leg, but it didn't last long before I shattered the other kneecap. The pain was overwhelming and he let out a strange guttural sound. Finally, he was experiencing the suffering he had inflicted on so many others. I could see that he was starting to slip into shock. We're in the Everglades, Juan. I could leave you here to the mercy of the alligators, insects, and other creatures, but I'll take a more civilized approach. Directly behind you is a pool of quicksand. After I cut you free, I'm going to remove the brake from your car and send it down the hill. Then I'll walk to the road not far from here and go home, reflecting on the brief time we've known each other. Do you have any last words, Juan? Kiss my butt. He managed to grit out through clenched teeth. I gave him another brief jolt with the stun gun. That seemed to get his attention. When he regained consciousness, I cut him down and he collapsed onto his car. Pure hatred was evident on his face. But I felt nothing. No anger. No compassion. Not even hatred. Just emptiness. I have a date with your girlfriend, so I'll be going now. Hold on, Juan. I wouldn't want you to fall off and get run over, I said, releasing the parking brake and giving the car a push. I watched as it slowly rolled backward. Screw you, he yelled, desperately holding onto the car as it disappeared into the mud. My ex never changed the locks on our house, apparently thinking I would never come back. I was sitting in the dark on the couch when she came in. When she turned on the light, she froze. Hello, Diana. What are you doing here? Get out. Juan will kill you if he finds out you're here. I think Juan's days of hurting people are over, dear. I said with a hint of sarcasm. Sit in the chair over there. We have things to discuss. I will not. I'm leaving and I'm calling Juan. She panicked. She tried to leave, but I quickly approached her and gave her a brief jolt with the stun gun. Her body went rigid as if someone had struck her. Her legs buckled and I helped her into the chair. It didn't take long for her to recover. Now we're going to talk. If you try to leave or touch the phone, I'll put this stun gun on your neck for a few seconds. I promise you won't like that. I know you, George. You would never do that. I promise. I'm not the man you married, Diana. Believe me when I say I've become a ruthless, cold-hearted person. One knows exactly what I mean. I think I like you better now. What did you do? You're one disturbed woman. Let's just say I took care of some unfinished business. I'll play along. What do you want? She asked, her voice a mix of fear and contempt, her bravado quickly fading. She must have thought I was going to kill her. Why, Diana? I was fair to you in the divorce. I didn't file for adultery, even though I had more than enough proof. I never tried to hurt you. So why did you feel the need to hurt me? As I spoke, I nervously toyed with the pin in my hand. The more I thought about the divorce, the more I hated you. I wanted to hurt you for abandoning me. In my own way, I always loved you. I couldn't handle the rejection. I had to make you understand how I felt. How did one get involved in all this? I met him at a bar. I told him that you abused me in our marriage and I wanted revenge. He was the perfect pawn for the job. He enjoys hurting people. I wanted to punish you. Juan, however, had his own agenda. I remember the kick you gave me on the way out. It seemed like you and Juan were on the same page. I had to do that. He was going to kill you. It was the only way I could think of to stop him. Some of what you're saying might be true, but I remember the venom in your voice and the force behind that kick. You took pleasure in hurting me. The only reason you're still alive is because I promised Eric I wouldn't kill you. I moved closer to the chair she was sitting in, and she instinctively shrank away in fear. I grabbed her by the hair, pulling hard enough to cause pain, and held the stun gun close to her face, firing it several times. I clicked the pin I had been fiddling with and she heard her entire confession playback from the digital recorder hidden inside it. My lawyer tells me that a confession from you backed by the evidence of my injuries should guarantee that you and Juan will face charges for aggravated assault, kidnapping, attempted murder, and depraved indifference. Some of those charges will stick. You're going to jail, Diana. Now that the recorder was off, I looked at her and said, I promised my son that I wouldn't kill you, but trust me when I say this. I have a devil on the hunt for you. I won't let you live in peace. Every day you'll beg for death, but I'll make sure you stay alive. It's time to run. With that, I released her and walked away, leaving her to her fate. Diana left town shortly after. The authorities are searching for her. She and Juan are now fugitives on the run. I never heard anything more about her. I don't think they'll ever catch up to Juan. As for Diana, she's been constantly looking over her shoulder, knowing the devil I set after her is still out there. Diana couldn't shake the words I had spoken to her. Every step she took, every shadow she saw, reminded her of the devil I'd promised was hunting her. She felt his presence everywhere, lurking in the corners of her mind, watching her from behind every darkened doorway. The thought of never being able to escape the torment, never being able to find peace, gnawed at her sanity. It didn't take long for her paranoia to escalate. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't stop looking over her shoulder. She started to see figures in the crowds, shadows that seemed to move with her, always just out of sight but never truly gone. Her eyes darted nervously as she walked down the street, hearing footsteps behind her, voices whispering her name in the wind. Her heart raced. Her breaths came in sharp gasps. The walls of her mind began to close in. One evening, while she was running through the streets, desperately trying to outrun the fear that had consumed her, she began screaming. Her voice cracked as she shouted about a man following her, a devil haunting her every move. People on the street paused, confused and alarmed by her frantic behavior. Her words were incoherent, a disjointed mix of terror and madness. "He's here. He's coming for me. The devil. The devil's after me," she shrieked, her eyes wide with panic. Her screams drew the attention of nearby pedestrians, some of whom called the authorities. Within moments, the sirens grew louder and soon police officers surrounded her, trying to calm her down. But Diana couldn't be reasoned with. Her mind was no longer her own. Consumed by the paranoia and fear I had planted in her, the officers tried to restrain her, but she fought them, thrashing violently in her frenzy. She was screaming about the devil, about a man who would never stop hunting her. Her words, though full of anguish, only made them believe she was in a state of mental distress. They quickly determined that she needed professional help. Diana was arrested and taken to a mental institution, her world reduced to white walls and sterile silence. The constant whisper of the devil in her mind became her only companion. The staff at the asylum tried to treat her, but it seemed no amount of medication or therapy could quiet the terror she lived with. She was trapped in her own mind, the devil's haunting presence always just out of reach but never far enough to allow her peace. Her life, once full of plans and choices, had been shattered by the consequences of her actions. The fear that I had instilled in her had taken over, leaving her a broken shell, unable to escape the torment that now defined her existence. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comment section below and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.